In Alaska, that would be their version of Death Valley, 58 degrees.
I remember in junior high school we had to write a career paper, and it was going to be about either being a sports or a news anchor. I graduated from a school, Cal State Northridge, which is in a suburb of Los Angeles, and the radio station was actually on the FM dial there in LA. So we were covering major stories like all the television affiliates were. Um, Charlie was there, and a lot of us hadn't seen each other since high school, a couple of years, and he was telling us, he goes, "Yeah, I just got back from the Philippines and we were filming a movie. And at this point, they think it's going to be called Platoon." The next month, he was on the cover of Time magazine for Platoon.
When I got into voiceover, that really changed the game for me. I remember going to the farmer's market and Liberace was there with his like 10 poodles. It was only in
Uh,
Los Angeles. For one moment, I felt like a real person. I felt like, so this is what it's like. It's like I'm sitting at a table with my sister and my brother and my grandmother, and I felt normal all of a sudden. I remember crying to myself, thinking, please don't let this end. I want this to go on forever. It felt really like home. I really felt this need for connection with my family, but I didn't have it because I was having to do my job, which was act. So I had to
mm,
focus on that. I never went to a prom. I didn't do any of
mm.
that stuff. And so
It reminds
definitely
me,
the very first thing you would actually notice was that voice. And so as he's hearing me talk or something, he said asked me if if I'd been a child actor, and I said, "Oh, since I was 6." So I thought I had something over him. Basically, I was sharing that, and I've been working since I was about that age. I was wishing and yearning that I could go over there. I'd never been to a park. I'd never played on a merry-go-round or a slide.
it was interesting walking into a UCLA sorority with 300 young women and doing my act. But it was putting on an act. Growing up in Malibu is a total fantasy land. Okay. Our idea of manual labor was when our parents told us to go rake seaweed off the beach. One cool thing, when I worked in Kansas City, Rob Lowe came to the Lee Jean Company in a suburb of Kansas City called Lenexa, Kansas, and he was talking about breast cancer awareness because I believe his mom or his grandmother had breast cancer. Then afterwards, the media had a chance to interview him, and so he was really surprised to see me there. And we talked about Malibu, and I was able to interview him. This is unacceptable because now I'm dating myself because the paper had a lot of whiteout marks on it from mistakes I made. Remember whiteout? That's going back.
Yeah.
I think in the back of my mind, I knew that eventually I would want to be doing television news. And like I said, I did it for 18 years. It was a great experience. And then when I got out of news, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back to the acting thing.
Get a degree and do something real, not acting.
Yeah.
You can't make a living in acting. And I told him that's what I want to do. I couldn't figure out why he was getting more commercials and TV appearances than I was, TV shows. And his sister basically said, "Our parents are in the industry." And I was shocked.
Running this voiceover and on-camera freelance business I have is definitely the most demanding thing I've ever done because you're wearing so many hats and you do constantly have to be versatile. This acting business is so demanding in so many ways. You've got to be versatile. You've got to, a lot of times you got to fake it. You're like, oh yeah, I can do that. And then
Right.
hopefully you can do it. But yeah, it's tough.
Your job as a VO is just to get to yes. So you don't worry about all of the auditions that you're not cast for. It's just the work that you need to put in to get to that yes.
Right.
We had to shift gears and then change to this slice of life voice instead of this big radio announcer that we always grew up mimicking.
The only rule, whether it be acting on camera or acting on voiceover, is there are no rules. And by that,
No.
you go in with a certain skill set
Mhm.
and you apply that, but you never know what they're looking for.
The
Yeah.
only reason he didn't call you back was because you smelled like his dad. When you've been writing right-handed to all of a sudden find out that I need to be writing left-handed. That's a development skill.
I think being prepared is a really good tool. If you go into a podcast or an interview or any kind of conversation and you don't have questions written up or you're searching, then you have a lot of like filler words that you use and oh and things like
That's
that.
true.
I've had some auditions where they gave you a script, but they told you to paraphrase it. And by being able to put it in my own words, I came across so much more naturally than if I read it the way that it was originally presented.
Mhm.
Collaboration often elevates performances. Individually, we were doing great, but getting us together brings together an element where all of us are interacting with each other and we bring out some of the best of each other. One comic that comes to mind is Robin Williams, and sometimes, especially with Jonathan Winters, how they would feed off each other, and some magical comedy came out as a result of that.
I've
Yeah.
always been a big one on this face-to-face collaboration and collaborating with others because it just sparks creativity.
It wasn't videotaped, so there was no redoing, and it cost lots of money to run film. Michael Landon would see it at 4:30 in the morning before he headed to the
Mm,
Simi Valley.
yeah.
Nowadays, I can't even count how many hats we have to wear. I have to make sure that the microphone's working, that the camera's working, that the my God, that maybe I forgot to turn the computer on. I'm not a
Yeah.
technical guy. Even as a little boy, I enjoyed watching it, the magic, because I thought they were real. Nobody told me that they were puppets. I didn't know what that was. I thought these were that's why they put me on the show. I was an idiot. Unmatched. It was Laurel and Hardy. But go ahead, Anthony. What were
No,
you?
the next time I get an audition from her, I'm making the drive because it's just a different experience.
The world we were raised in learning on camera and off camera voiceover is that it was a monologue to be memorized and to recite it like you're in a Shakespeare park. Most of our time is to make up these tricks to make up for the lack of collaboration. I sit in a dark room and I talk to myself for a living. That's basically, yeah, I don't have much other than this podcast. I got yelled at because I didn't know how to ring up an onion because there's no UPC on an onion. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but the farmers don't grow that. It's one thing to juggle
Mm.
yourself, but then you have someone else to play off of. The relief is gone because half of the juggling is relying on them.
So many times during this episode and in previous episodes, I'll be listening to a story that Connor or Bo's asking a question, and I will think of things that I never would have thought of had I been
Me
doing
too.
just as a
I didn't
matter of
know
fact, in time about collaboration,
I'm an actor.
But
I'm
that's
only
what
as
led
good as my
us.
lines that are written, right? I've had my router going nonstop since 1979. 2 years after Star Wars came out is when I turned the router on. I've not reset it